So the first thing that I need to do is actually behave well, because they're recording, you know. So my name is Oriana Acevedo, and I'm one of the consultants for public libraries. So I welcome you all to the State Library of New South Wales for a very exciting morning. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodian of the land in which we are meeting today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And I pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging, and to any people that are here today. As well, we acknowledge the contribution that people from many nations have made to this country. Make this country a wonderful place to live. This year, the focus is on diversity reading. 2.5 of the New South Wales population are Indigenous. 31.4 of the New South Wales people were born overseas, and this is often not fully reflected in the Reader's Advisory Service. King County Library in Washington State says, regardless of your race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientations, gender identity, religion, economic status, ability, or political party, this is your library, and we are glad that you have joined us. Our doors are open to you, and all that we provide is available without question. A public library is the bedrock of democracy, and no matter what happens in the world around us, the library's doors will always open to everyone. It is a place where hope can be still be discovered and nurtured. Please join our community library online and discover the incredible freedom of our library has to offer. Readers Advisory has a role in this. The New South Wales Readers Advisory Steering Committee has planned a day exploring diversity, starting with this award-winning librarian Robin Bradford, and then the very interesting author Bronwyn Bancroft, Will Kostakis, Randa Abdel Fattah, and Benjamin Law. Finishing off the morning with Janice Henaway from Townsville Library to talk about the Mary Rainbow Book Club, which she runs. This afternoon, we'll explore ways the local public libraries are engaging with the diverse community and ideas about ways that they could be. And so now we're going to move the standard housekeeping information. In case of emergency, we will have to evacuate, and we will be asking you to follow the instruction of the state library staff. So we will be using the exit and meeting at the domain, which is the part between the state library and the art gallery. The toilets are located on, this is my left side, I think. Yes, it is. On that side, you can use that door or you can go around here. There's also cold water at the coffee shop and it's free. Okay. Timekeeping, very important part of our event today. So I did ask for a ninja. And so they sent me Helen. Where's Helen? Helen is here. So there she is. And Helen told me that there will be a bell ring at 5 minutes. Is that correct? Yes? And one bell at 1 minute. So we all keep an eye on Helen. So most of these activity today, they are going to be streamed on video. There will be, I will remind you later, if you want to ask questions, rather than be sitting there, you will have to come and make a little queue here and come all the way here to say hello. Yeah, because she's watching us. She's there. And so I had the great pleasure to meet Robin not long ago. And in my emotional state, I introduced myself as Oriana. And my background was Finnish speaking. And then I thought there's something wrong. Ah, no, it's Spanish. That's right. Not only English, but my background is Spanish now. So let's talk about Robin. Robin Bradford worked for Timberland Regional Library District in Tumwater. And in 2016, she was awarded the Librarian of the Year award from the Romance Writers of America. She has worked with authors to help the titles into these collections and worked with librarians to push for equal treatment of genre fiction and work with readers so they can find their favorite author in the library shelf. So at the end, remind, if you have any question, you want to come here and talk to Robin. So with great pleasure then, I leave Robin to talk to you. Your turn, Robin.
Good morning. So today we're going to talk about finding diverse romance and promoting it to every audience. So first of all, we should start with what is diverse romance? And this is from the RWA, the Romance Writers Association website. And it's defining romance, and it's a central love story where the main plot centers around individuals falling in love and struggling to make the relationship work. And it also has an emotionally satisfying or optimistic ending. So we don't die at the end of a romance. They end up together and live either happily ever after or happily for now, in case there's a sequel. So this is what a romance is. And a diverse romance is exactly the same thing. The only difference is the cast of characters. So there's no difference between a romance and a diverse romance. It's all romance. And what is diversity? So diversity usually means something about the characters are underrepresented in the genre. And I say in the romance genre, but really it's across fiction genres. So it could be someone of a different ethnicity or race, someone of a different religion, someone of a different sexual orientation or gender identity, or someone differently abled. And romances written by diverse authors are often referred to as own voices books, meaning they're writing about, it's an underrepresented author writing about their underrepresented characters. But that's not the only way that underrepresented characters get to the genre. So you can have white authors writing about Black characters, or straight authors writing about gay characters. But those won't be own voices books. No matter who is writing the book, though, stereotypes can kill a good story. So whether it's an own voices book, whether it's not, if you're relying on stereotypes of underrepresented characters, that can really kill a good story. What diverse romance isn't? There's a lot of myths about diverse romances. So the first one is it's just for people who look like the characters in the book. So if you have a romance with Black characters, it's just for Black readers. That is so not true. Romance books with gay characters aren't just for gay people. Romance books with Muslim characters aren't just for people who practice the Muslim faith. A lot of the stories with diverse characters are self-published, and people take that to mean that the books are of a lower quality. That is also not the case. Many big traditional publishers are focused on profit, not necessarily on making sure that underrepresented characters are represented. So they're trying to figure out how to get the most money for their company. And that means traditional books to traditional audiences. There's been this myth that no one will read a diverse romance unless it's someone from that community. That's starting to change a little bit, and more books are coming to the market and being marketed towards everyone, not just to a particular group, which then raises more money for the traditional publisher, and then they bring more books to the market. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you only market books to a small group of people, they don't make as much money. So a lot of people are really trying to make it known that, yes, we will read books about anyone, written by anyone. And in that case, the profit margin becomes a little bit bigger. The last myth is it's hard to identify with characters that don't look or act like you. And that's just also not true. In a romance with diverse characters, two people meet, they're drawn to each other or repelled by each other, but can't help themselves. They get together despite obstacles, and something breaks them apart, but love wins in the end. If you can understand and empathize with that story structure when it's between vampires or werewolves, you can do the same for people who are differently abled, same sex, or brown skinned. There's no difference. So why does diverse romance matter? Well, because we do want diverse communities to see books that represent their experience. Because every story is important. And also because it helps humanize communities with whom you may have very little experience. Many communities have been stereotypically depicted in media so often that you believe that everyone who looks or speaks or practices a certain religion, they're all exactly the same, and that's not the case. So the more that you see these stories in fiction, the more you start to understand that within diverse communities, there's diverse people, and not every story is the same. So these stories can open up someone else's experience so that we can see the full range of humanity in every community. So who should read diverse romance and why? Everybody. Everybody should read diverse romance. Everybody benefits from knowing about people different from themselves, whether it's own voices or whether it's someone else writing about that community. The world needs to hear everyone's stories and empathize with all communities, that they're all seeking their own special happily ever after. So a little bit of history about the first Black romance. In 1980, Del Candlelight published Entwined Destinies. This was the first African-American romance with a major publisher. It was the 575th book in the Del Candlelight romance line. So after 574 books, they decided maybe it was time to put a Black character and a Black story forward. Harlequin published its first African-American romance in 1984, so that's a 4-year gap before we get another big publisher. And it was Sandra Kitt's Adam and Eva, which you can still buy. All of Sandra Kitt's backlist is available in print and in digital. And until then, after that, it was sporadic publishing until the 1990s, and then we started to see more African-American stories being told by mainstream publishers. And Rosalind Wells, who wrote Entwined Destinies, was actually, that was her name by night. By day, she was Elsie Washington, who was a writer and editor for many American news magazines. So now that you've decided you wanted to add some diverse books to your collection, how do you start and where do you start? The good news is that you can start almost anywhere because diverse romance is more attainable now than it has ever been. It's available in all subgenres. It's available in all heat levels. And you can't always believe what you've been told about self-published novels. Again, a lot of people think that self-published novels means that they're less edited and they're just not as good as traditionally published novels, and that is not the case. There's a lot of freelance editing that happens for self-published novels. They're just as good as traditionally published novels. They just aren't being brought to market by a traditional publisher. So if you're looking for another place to start, don't forget to use the blogs and or social media. And these are a few blogs that talk specifically about romance. So even if you don't have time to, yes?
Sorry, I don't think you I think you're meaning to screen share. I don't think you've screen shared with us.
Ah.
Sorry, I was just thinking when you're talking about the blogs that it would be maybe helpful if we could see them. That's all. So maybe go to share screen. Lovely. Thanks so much.
That is very helpful. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Hooray! So these are the blogs that you can now see, and they all talk specifically about romance fiction. So even if you don't have time to look through catalogs or search on the web, you can go here, and the content is updated very frequently, sometimes multiple times a day. So you can pop in and out anytime and just see what's going on in the romance community. They're always talking about books, both backlist and new releases. They all also talk about a lot of things in media. So if there's a book to movie crossover, or if there's a new TV show that is not romance specific, but it has romantic elements, they talk about that. They also have some original content from authors. So if you're just looking to get started and find where some authors might be living, this is a good place to start, and it will give you a lot of hints on where to go next to find these books. So a few tips and tricks. Know your small and indie publishers. The 4 publishers that I have listed right there are all publishers of LGBT fiction. You're not going to find a lot of these in catalogs or in review journals that we use here, just because they already have a small amount of space for genre fiction. And when they do, what they do with that space is normally go for the big authors so that they get the most bang for their buck. So if you're looking for a specific and usually diverse group of books, you're not going to find them in the normal places. You have to know where to look. And sometimes it does take a little extra effort to try and find them, but it's worth the extra effort to diversify your collection. So one of the things that librarians tend to say is, if a traditional romance book doesn't work with patrons, we say that the book didn't work. Sometimes we carry it over to the author. So we never say, my patrons don't like books by white authors. That is never a thing that's said. But if a Black author or a gay author or a Muslim author writes a book that doesn't circulate, we tend to say, no, my patrons don't like those kind of books. And it's not really a fair comparison. So on the one hand, we say a book didn't work. On the other hand, we say all books by people in that class don't work. So we have to be a little bit more forgiving of things and try to build a readership for things that maybe they don't work because they don't know what those are about, or they are afraid to try them, or they think that's not for them. And we have to work a little bit beyond that so that we can get everyone on the same page that these books are for everybody, not just for a certain group of people. So looking a little bit at Riptide Publishing, This is their search page. And as you can see on the side there, you can search by any number of categories. So what you can make it as wide a group or as narrow. You can search by heat wave. And I actually have no idea what that is, but you can search by it. Erotic frequency is something that a lot of people want to know. Maybe they want erotic romance. Maybe they want something with just 1 or 2 sex scenes and a lot more romance. You can filter by ending. Does it have a happy ending? You can filter by age. Is it for young adult or for adults? And here you can search by gender identity. So is it cisgender or is it trans? And you see the ratio of books that are available in those areas. Or you can filter by sexual orientation. So even though this is a traditionally LGBT publisher, they still have at least 40 books with main characters that are heterosexual. Another place to get started is looking for small press that I had never seen this one before I started working on this presentation, actually. It's called Ankara Press, and it's African romances. And I did buy one. I haven't read it yet, so I don't know if it's good, but just the idea that it's another group that's coming to the market with books from a perspective that we may not have seen. So I'm excited to read about my first African romance and to see how it differs from romance, or an African American romance specifically here in the States. And women, WOC is women of color, so women of color in romance. They have a website, but the majority of their things are found on Twitter. So I added their Twitter page handle as well. They highlight women of color who write romance. It updates weekly, and they have midweek notices as books are released. Sometimes you'll find most of the books here are released on Tuesday. Sometimes you'll find, different release dates, especially with self-published authors. So they'll update as needed. They also sponsor a monthly book club. So they're getting the word out, not just that there's new books, but let's all read some together. But mostly what they're known for is on Twitter. Every Tuesday, they will run down the list of women of color who have produced a romance. That doesn't mean that the characters are necessarily characters of color, but if a woman of color has written a romance book, they will know about it and let you know. And these are some shots from the last week of their Biker's Librarian. I just read that last night, by the way. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I tend to seek out all the books with librarians, and if it's a Black librarian, I'm definitely going to try and read it. So there wasn't a lot about the library in it, so that was a little bit disappointing. So these are some of the authors, and you can see that it's just about every subgenre of romance is covered there. And so they do this every week, and I spend money every week, and I have to set aside a little money on Tuesdays, because whenever I look at these, I almost always buy at least one. Sometimes it's 5, but we won't talk about that. So once upon a time, it was thought that there were no diverse romances that were historical. It was all historical romance was only about a narrow time period in British history, and that was the only thing that was considered historical romance. But this particular subgenre of romance has increased substantially to fit in a lot of different time periods, a lot of different regions, and a lot of different people. So these are three. So you have also, you start with the narrow British on the left, on the far left there, which is a beautiful cover. And it's written by someone, so this is not an Own Voices book, it's written by a Black woman, and she's writing about the traditional British hierarchy there. Then you have Sherry Thomas, who's writing about Imperial China and Asian characters in Imperial China. And then you have Piper Hughley, who writes about post-Civil War America, so that's like in the 1860s, 1870s, up until the early 20th century in America. You have someone like Alyssa Cole, who writes about several different American time periods. So here you have the Civil War, Civil Rights, which is 1950s and 1960s, and the American Revolution, which is the 1770s, 1780s. The Let It Shine, the civil rights book, was nominated for a Rita Award last year. And the Rita Awards are the awards given out by the Romance Writers Association every year. Just today, the nominations for 2017 came out, and she was nominated for a second Rita Award with a novella that was in a different anthology. So if you're looking to start your collection of diverse romances with award winners, that's a good place to start too, or an award nominees. And in addition to ethnicity and place, you can also find now all different sexual orientations in historical fiction too. And these are some examples of that. And here are some historical authors that you can start with who either are diverse or write diverse characters. Contemporary romances are the traditional place where you're going to find diversity because it's current. You can, do all sorts of things. Sometimes in historical romance, you're limited by what was actually happening at the time. But here you can, the world is your oyster. So a lot of diverse romance started in contemporaries. And it's by far the easiest category if you're trying to start to diversify your collection. We have sports romances, romantic suspense. Mr. and Mr. Smith was also nominated for a Rita Award earlier today. So that is a same-sex kind of spy versus spy novel. One of the areas of diverse fiction that's harder to find are, and sometimes I get questions about characters who may have a certain disease or disability, and it's a challenge to find them. So Love on My Mind, the hero in that book has Asperger's syndrome, which is on the autism scale. And the hero in Maybe Someday is a songwriter who is deaf. So a lot of those things that we're looking for, that people ask for, it's harder to find, but we do find them every now and then. Jessica Scott, and I don't have a book cover for her, has a lot of military-themed romance books with heroes and heroines who are dealing with a number of problems specifically related to military service and returning home from war. So there's PTSD, there's loss of limbs. There are a lot of things that are in her books that also people ask for and are good to give. Actually, going back there, Busted by Shiloh Walker, that is another Black librarian. So on my list of things to read. And lastly, so Alicia Rye and Rebecca Weatherspoon's Fit are also RT Book Award winners. So if you're looking for award winners, that is fantastic. Hold Me Courtney Milan was also nominated for a Rita Award today. So that's 3 Rita Award nominees. This book features a transgender heroine as well as a hero and heroine are both ethnically diverse. And these are some contemporary authors that are either diverse or write diverse characters. So paranormal, romance, and urban fiction. So the vampires and werewolves we were talking about earlier live here. Also witches, wizards, just about anything, dragons that you can think of live here. And it's another area that has been quick to diversify their casts. And a lot of times it's because we're already dealing with things outside of what we would call reality. So it's easier to then add diversity. And here are some paranormal urban fantasy authors. But really, in the end, we're just trying to make sure that we're bringing stories of everyone to everyone so that we can all try to understand the world around us and the people in it a little bit better. And that is actually the beauty of romance and the beauty of diverse romance. And that's it.
Thank you, Robin. Now we are going to question you. Just a second.
Oh, that's fine.
Is there any question in the room? I just keep thinking vampires and stuff. My brain going like that. Okay. Any question? Okay. How do I do that?
We'll just ask mythical questions.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any question from the people who have joined us online? No? I'm sure that when we say goodbye to you, we're going to come up with hundreds of questions.
I'm happy to answer them by email too.
I've got a question while the rest of you are thinking of one. Robin, you mentioned about having to kind of, in a way, make the titles work, the library staff having to make the titles work harder with their community. Are there ways that have kind of been more successful in your library with promoting some of these titles of greater diversity? Because I really did like the way you were bringing in a range of backgrounds, characters, etc., into the mix. So, yeah.
I think one of the better ways is to just include them in regular book lists. So instead of, like, February here is African American Month or Black History Month. So instead of just gathering all the Black romances in February and putting them out and then forgetting for the rest of the year, if you have a sports romance display, add all people to that display. Or, you know, if you have a display of romances set in a certain area or in a certain time period, making sure that you add diversity to that display too, not just waiting for a certain time period or, you know, something where you can just highlight all the diverse romances at once. It's really about integrating them into all of your readers' advisory and not being afraid to recommend them to people either. You know, thinking sometimes we get in our own way saying, well, they're not really going to want that. They want historical romance, but they don't want that because they're not that. And it's like, no, maybe everybody wants to read a good historical romance, you know, no matter what. When people recommend books to me, they don't just recommend romances by Black people with Black characters. They recommend a wide range of books. So we should do that with everyone.
That sounds good. And I have to admit, I did like your point that if people have no trouble suggesting books with vampires and werewolves, seriously, get over it. I was wondering, following on from our discussion the other day, did you find any cricket romances?
I did not find any cricket romances, but that's how I found the African romance, because I was searching for cricket romances and I didn't find any, but then it led me to the African romances. So I guess I made a discovery.
It's a good outcome. And the reason the cricket one comes up is Robin was mentioning that there's a lot of sporting romances in the US, and she was kind of going, yeah, she tried rugby once, wasn't really getting anything diverse, and I said cricket. Because, think of, cricket's played around the world in a range of places. There must be romance in cricket. Obviously, there is no romance in cricket. Yes.
Not yet.
I think it's a gap that's got to be filled with some writing.
Yes, it absolutely is.
I'm sure, I'm not going to let my mind wander down that pathway for this seminar. Hopefully there'll be some other question coming up soon.
They say if you see a gap, then it's your responsibility to fill it with a book.
Okay, we have two questions here.
Just come up here and wait, and then you're ready for the next. Come on. Let's try. So if you've got a question, just come and kind of stand here. There was somebody else.
Hey, Robin.
Hello.
I just wanted to ask, do you have a lot of experience with translated romances, so things that were published in another language originally and then into English?
I don't. That's one of the things that we're looking for, because we don't have a lot of romances here with Muslim characters, and I hear that in Muslim-oriented countries that you can find those there. So I'm looking for some of them to be translated so that we can add them to our collection.
Okay then. And then the other thing was, I noticed in one of the, I think it was the Riptide ones, that the breakdown for lesbian and gay, the gay one had a lot more published than lesbian. Is that because female readers like reading male on male rather than female on female?
Actually, yes, that is the case overall, but there are specific publishers, Bella Books, and there's another one that I can't think of right now, but it was also on that slide, that are more geared towards lesbians. So the female books are more published there, and Riptide had a few, but I think across the board, male romancers are more popular.
Okay.
So it's both.
Cool. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Y'all gotta come up here.
Here I am. Hi, Robin. My name's Renee.
Hello.
I noticed in your bio that you were awarded Librarian of the Year last year by the Romance Writers of America. Congratulations. I'd like to know why they awarded you that award. What are some of the initiatives that you've brought to your library that have caused them to sit up and take notice of you?
I think it's more that I speak out on adding books to the library, so really just not segregating romance books. A lot of libraries here didn't even catalog romance books. They just threw them on spinners and said, people will take whatever they want, and really it's saying no, they need to be treated the same as every other book, and helping a lot of authors, especially self-published authors, navigate the library world so they know how to make their books available and in what formats, what we can and can't do with ebooks, how to get in contact with their librarians and make books available in the libraries.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have another question? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hi, my name's John.
Hello. Hello.
I guess one of the things I've been interested in lately and reading a bit about, we've got this fantastic broadcaster called SBS here, and they've been doing a series on like identity and desire, and about people writing articles about decolonizing desire. Do you think that diverse romance plays a role in sort of busting up that kind of thing? Because there's a huge amount of like discrimination in online dating sites and things like that, like where people write no Asians, that kind of stuff. Like, is diverse romance playing a role in giving people?
I think it is, and that's one of the breakdowns between own voices books and non-own voices books, because a lot of times if you're writing from someone else's perspective, you end up adding a lot of stereotypes, and then a lot of the people in that group that you're stereotyping, get angry and upset about what was in the book. So a lot of those stereotypes are things that you find in the decolonizing. So I think a lot of that is where own voices came from, and making the distinction in the books. And there's a thing now here about sensitivity reading and having someone from that group. So if you're a female writing a male-male romance, there's, you can have someone read your book and point out where you may have gone wrong, or what you may have done to, stereotype a character or a group where you may not have intended to do that, but you just don't know because that's not your experience. And I think that was an outgrowth of trying to decolonize.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, Robin. My name's Judith. Hello. We have an Australian author, Anita Heiss. She's an Aboriginal woman, and she's written some recent contemporary, what's reductively called chick lit, which kind of broadly falls into the romance category. And she's the only Aboriginal writer I'm aware of that's working in that particular genre. There may be more, but Anita's probably the highest profile one, certainly. I'm just interested if there are many First Nations writers in America that are working in the romance field.
There are not, and that's a gap that we have. And we're constantly looking for them for a long time. Speaking of decolonizing romance, for a long time, that was something that, we had many writers writing them from a stereotypical point of view. So how connected to First Nations, but kind of fetishizing, the community. So that's a gap, and we really would like to fill it.
Okay, thank you. Interesting.
You're welcome.
Hi, Robin. I was just going through the program for today, and I'm not sure if I'm asking the correct person this, but it slightly relates to it. I'm a youth officer, and I was curious as to your opinion on genre stickers on books, because I've actually taken them off all of my books, and especially the romance, because I was noticing kids are getting bullied for reading LGBTQI books, romance, books that were less than their reading level per se. So what's your experience with that, if you have any?
I really hate stickers, just me personally, because I feel like whatever sticker you're putting on it, you're missing something. So unless you're going to have a spine full of stickers so that you hit every single thing that's in the book, you're missing something. And a lot of genre blending. So is it a mystery? Is it a romance? There's gay characters, there's diverse characters, there's Black characters. Are you going to put a sticker on for each thing? Yep. So I understand that people want to sticker the main thing, or what they consider the main thing, whether that's, the characters in the book, or the age level of the book, or the genre of the book. But me personally, I don't like stickers.
Glad to hear someone else agrees with me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
More questions? Okay, in this free sticker world, we have no more questions, I think. Oh, yes.
Hi.
Hello.
If there's no stickers, how can we help people to find these things? Do you have any tips? Because the words that we use to catalogue are not the words often that people use in their day-to-day lives. Do you have any tips?
Yeah, that's the benefit of stickers. that's the other side of the argument that I always get. A lot of book lists help. So if you have some of these books, making book lists or bookmarks so that people can find or know who the authors are and find them that way. Displays often help, but yeah, in the catalog, it's difficult. It's very difficult to find them because a lot of times, and a lot of the covers that you saw, there's no indication of who or what or is in the book. So you don't really know. And that is the other side of the sticker argument.
Yeah.
That you want people to just be able to go through at a glance and know this book has this group of people in it, and that's what I'm looking for, so I can pick it out. So
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Last chance, children. You're sure that you have asked, well, I know that you've been inspired by other questions that have come here, and I learned new terminology. What is it called? Decolonialism. I can't pronounce it.
It's hard.
I know, but I can't pronounce it. Okay. So why don't we put our hands together with being so gracious to be here. I think it's about 3 or 4 o'clock p.m. there. Time for a lovely tea, I would say. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope physically to see you in Australia one of these days. Just
Yes,
let us
me
know when you
too.
are coming. Yes, I wouldn't say, oh, we have a wonderful weather because it's been raining without stopping for about 2 weeks. Very soon we're gonna have to use a boat to get here, you know?
Same as here. Same thing here. So
we're not going there. There's no point. See? But we will offer you some sunny day, and we'll send you some sunshine at some point.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much again, and
thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
And have a lovely afternoon.
You too. Enjoy the rest of your session.
Thank you.